I came in believing that I'd be the best, if not one of the best guys. I'm not worried at all. I'm 100% confident that I'm going to race this season. I'm 100% confident that I'm going to do well this year. I feel like my ceiling is really high. No matter what is thrown my way, I feel like I can handle it.
The pass was made by Margot Loja, returning the favor.
It's Will Loja, second straight year. What a battle.
And the young man running for the hometown Terriers will win.
Let's go, Will, finish!
Now Will Loja taking it out.
Will Loja, Gilbert! Will Loja, we got
Will Loja, huge kick.
Welcome to The Kick, a runner's podcast. I'm your host, Will Loja. I love running and I love a good kick. Today's guest is Will Sumner, a man who needs no introduction, but I'll give a little something anyways. He's an NCAA champion, Millrose Games champion, Penn Relays champion, and two-time U20 world champion. Suffice to say, he's one of the best middle distance runners ever, and he's currently a pro runner for Adidas. So without further ado, Will, thanks for joining me here on The Kick.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited.
You're the first Will guest on The Kick, so I think preferential treatment might be in order. It's a great name.
Yeah, no, as soon as I heard your name was Will, I'm like, oh, I definitely gotta be on the podcast.
Yeah, where there's a will, there's a way. That's for sure.
Yep, exactly.
So you haven't raced in a little while. Track and field fans definitely miss you. I think your competitors maybe are relieved to have had a break from racing against you. But how are you doing? What's your update on when you'll be racing again and when we'll see you back on the oval?
Yeah, so I tweaked my foot a bit in December. So I've been dealing with like a posterior tib tendinopathy issue since I guess, the beginning of December. But yeah, I've been working through that and training's coming along a lot better. Foot's feeling a lot better now. Not 100%, but it's getting there. And so, yeah, I do plan on being out there in the next couple months. So yeah, you guys should hopefully see me out there, ready to roll soon.
Let's go. You heard it here first. Very exciting. Very exciting.
Yep.
So you broke a lot of national records in high school. So the running world knew who you were from, a pretty early stage in your career. I remember watching your NCAA championship in the 800 meters outdoors your freshman year. Anytime you see a freshman win at NCAAs, it's already automatically impressive. But you run 1:44, super fast time, and it was off a negative split, which really impressed me. And you led the whole race wire to wire. So that performance definitely excited a lot of track fans. But for you, how pumped were you about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was really excited with that race. Obviously, I had a lot of expectations coming into the NCAA because I was, I ran 146 in high school and I think at the time that would have been like top 10 in the NCAA. So, I came in believing that I'd be, the best, if not one of the best guys. So, I really wanted to go out there and prove it. But my indoor season didn't end the way I wanted it to. So I really wanted to come out, with a vengeance for the outdoor season and cap it off with something big. So yeah, I was, really, really excited to drop a 144 because I think it was almost a 2-second PR for me. So yeah, I mean, it was just one of those moments that I look back on very fondly for sure.
Yeah, and you come through 53 seconds at 400, drop a 51 to close it down. I know my coaches, whenever I ran the 800, they always said, like, if you want a PR, you got a positive split, you need to go out hard. And I think like 90% of PRs in the 800 are probably a positive split race. And I think the other small percentage of people who do run a negative split to get to their PR, usually I would guess it was a distance runner coming down to the 800. So I feel like your case is kind of a rare case because you are more of that sprint end, like 800 is the highest you go generally.
Yeah, I mean, with a race like that, obviously you walk away, one, like you're like, wow, I can't believe I just did that. But two, like a negative split does kind of leave you feeling like you have more on the table. And I certainly do feel like there's more out there. I just, I had a rough last couple of years dealing with injury, dealing with, kind of limitations in terms of training volume. And so it's one of those things. I think once I get to where I can actually do what I need to do, I'm really excited. I feel like my ceiling is really high. And I feel like that gives me the confidence to know I can run a race a number of ways, because obviously if I can win with a negative split like that, I should theoretically be able to also do it with a positive split just because, I do have 45 400 speed, so I should be able to go out fast and hang on. So, I think that's kind of the big thing is like going forward, I know no matter what is thrown my way, I feel like I can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see what you're saying with the high ceiling. I feel like that's immediately what I think when I see a negative split like that in a fast time. And also, you have been injured before, and when you come back, you generally seem to come back swinging. Like I remember coming off like your injuries in 2024. You then are racing in 2025. You're winning Millrose. You're winning Penn Relays. Like it doesn't seem like you necessarily need a ton of time being back racing at least to kind of get your legs back under you. Do you feel like that's the case, and does that excite you for this next comeback that's on the horizon?
Yeah, I think that's true for the most part. At least from like the 400, 600 side of things. I think the 800 takes a little more time for me to click. Like as we saw last year, I couldn't really put an 8 together. Um, but yeah, this year we've been, trying to handle things a little differently with training. Obviously with this injury, I'm still kind of capped in terms of volume, but I feel like because we're kind of playing around with, how to get the most out of what volume I can do. Yeah, I think I'll be able to come out a lot hotter than I did in the 8 last year. So yeah, I don't know. I just know I'm excited. I'm ready to go. Like my body's starting to feel really good. I'm starting to feel like I'm in shape, and yeah, I just can't wait to go rip it.
For those who don't know, Will was a one and done, as they like to say, at University of Georgia. Maybe something you don't typically see as much in track as you would in a sport like basketball. Was it that NCAA title you feel like that really either gave you that opportunity or made it certain that like okay, I've done what I needed to do here, and it's time to sign this pro deal with Adidas. What did that look like?
Yeah, yeah. So, it's one of those things a lot of people don't really understand unless they've been in that situation. So like for me, I knew that I wouldn't get another opportunity like that. That's just, that's the reality. And I'm especially grateful because the way things took off after 2023, like, the 2024 was the fastest year ever in the 8 by far. And then 2025 was, I think, even faster than that. So the opportunities to go pro probably wouldn't have been there any other time. And so, yeah, like one of the things that people like to say is like you got to strike while the iron's hot, and that's so true with track because you never know what's going to happen. Like for instance, I got injured, missed 2024. um Something like that happened, that would have totally derailed my possibility of even going pro. So yeah, like it's one of those things. I'm really glad that I signed, and yeah, even though things haven't necessarily turned out the way I expected the last couple years, it's still at the end of the day, like the way it set me up is great, for my career, and yeah, I'm just grateful to be in the situation.
What did you learn like from your brief 1 year, at Georgia? You had some pretty fast teammates, I know like Matthew Bowling, guys like that. What do you take away from that period of your track career?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things, and that's one of the things I needed the most out of college is just being around people who have the same aspirations as me, because everyone there, like whether it's Matt Bowling, Kyle Garland, Elijah Godwin, we had Caleb, we had Christopher Morales Williams, like there were so many guys who just wanted to be good, and then I have my 800 training partner Clay, who he's running for Atlanta Track Club now. Um, so like a lot of these guys, they all had the same goals as me. Just we want to be the best we can, and we want to compete and get a national championship. And being in an environment like that is just so good for the development of an athlete. I felt like I learned so much from them, just about not just the running related things, but the off the track things, how to take care of your body, how to you know prepare mentally, and just how to compose yourself, because they've been there, done that, they're experienced, and that was what I was lacking, was experience. So um I think it's great, and to have them as leaders on the team, and just kind of they're like almost like the parents of the track team in a way. You know, they kind of like their aura is kind of like what fills the room, and so like you kind of follow them. They lead by example, and yeah, I think that's a very underrated aspect of my success there.
Yeah, I think it is key to be brought up because I think a lot of people just overlook it as like, oh, like he barely was in the NCAA, but like, no, that's a key time, and you had that experience there. It's funny because like you never were the older guy. I was thinking about it now. You would technically be like a senior if you had stayed in
Right.
college. You ever think of time in that context, like, oh, I would be a senior in the NCAA right now?
Yeah, I do think about it a lot, just because I haven't had, the last couple of years I've wanted, and then I think back on it, I'm like, you know what, I'd be a senior now. Like this would be the my last year of college running, and I'd still have a lot of future ahead of me if I were in that situation. So why don't I, feel the same way now? So yeah, I think it's great to kind of contextualize it in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to think about how you would have shaken things up in the NCAA had you stayed, and how national championships would have the results would have been vastly different. But yeah, I think you can get into like a sense of like, oh, like you're falling behind if you've been hurt, this and that. But like you're what, 22 years old?
Yeah, exactly.
22 years old, like you're basically you still like a really young guy. We think of the recent graduates in the NCAA as like the youngest guys on the pro scene. So you're really right in that mix. Um, what do you look at now as like the biggest goals for you in this return? You've got I can't help but think Olympics. I'm watching the Winter Olympics right now and like getting excited for summer. Is that something that you already like are putting on your radar in your approach, or it's much more like short term, the races that lie in front of you in the next couple months?
Yeah, I mean, big picture, Olympics is obviously what everyone's shooting for, but there are a lot of steps that you have to take to get there. And I think one of the mistakes I made in 2024 was I was so focused on the Olympics that I didn't think about what was right in front of me, which was, there were a lot of things I needed to work on to actually stay healthy and stay, be able to run. And now I have a much better sense of what I actually need to do to get better in the moment, and what I actually need to do, to work on, so then eventually I can get to that point. Because right now there's a lot, like, yeah, obviously I got to be able to compete, I got to be able to stay healthy, I got to be able to stay in it mentally for a long time just to get there. So right now I'm really mostly just looking forward to like enjoying this, enjoying the sport, enjoying racing, enjoying training, keeping my body healthy, and yeah, just doing whatever's gonna have, allow me to have a long career and get to that point.
I'm sure you've learned a lot about your body and what allows it to stay healthy and things to avoid. What is your approach like for avoiding injury coming out of this? Are there things that I feel like for distance runners, a lot of times it's like, well, you got to be careful with volume and how you ramp that up and mileage and maybe being more careful there. But as a middle distance guy, I feel like that's not less of a factor, but like you're not generally running a ton of mileage anyways. So what are kind of some of the things you look at?
Yeah, so for me, like, we've kind of had to face the reality of that I have a really low volume kind of capacity. I like this past fall, I was my first time going over 20 miles in a week, and I got hurt almost immediately. And um I think I think that's one thing we kind of have to grapple with. And also, just the main thing is that it's not the volume that's hurting me, it's the volume with my mechanics. And it's simply like I mechanically can't run slow without causing myself to get hurt. So, and I can't do all my volume fast. Like that's just not feasible. And so, um, we've had to essentially kind of cut that stuff out, and we've had to work a lot on mechanics, a lot on, you know, making sure my hips are moving correctly, making sure my feet are doing what they need to do, making sure my ankles are doing what they need to do, making sure everything's moving symmetrically. And it's a lot of hard work, a lot of stuff I got to be really diligent about. I mean, it's like every single day I'm doing the same thing over and over and over to drill it in to my body. And this is what I had to do in 2024 to get just to get back to running again. Um, and I think we kind of fell out of that a little bit last fall just because I was, I felt fine. So I'm like, oh, I guess like my body knows how to move correctly again. But that's not the case. Like you forget, you default to your old ways really quickly because whenever there's something wrong with you, like an imbalance, your body's just gonna compensate whatever way it can. And so yeah, I just I've learned the hard way. I got to stay on that stuff every single day. Every single week. It's got to be really consistent. Nutrition's a big thing. Like just got to make sure I'm eating enough because you burn a lot of calories doing this. So um, yeah, it's really nothing crazy complicated, but it's just a lot of stuff you got to be mindful of.
While you've been hurt, I know I was hurt a couple times in college, and it's for one thing nice to have like other team. Not that you want your teammates to be hurt, but it's nice to have some other teammates who like you're either cross training with at the same time or just like able to relate to in some way. And I know being hurt in college, you're still going to the meets, and like it's nice to be able to support the team, but it is tough because you want to be out there, not on the sideline. What has your experience been like now as a pro? And are you watching like track and are you still like following the NCAA? Like, are you still able to kind of watch as a spectator, or do you not like even want to see that stuff because you just wish you could be out there?
Yeah, so in 2024 it was really hard for me. Like I don't even know if I watched any races. I think I maybe watched like one or two races of the USA Championships, and in the Olympics, I think I watched a few. More so because I was like at that point I'd accepted it. But throughout the season, I didn't really watch anything. This time around, it's a lot different. Like I actually watch all the races because I like keeping up, and I also like I'm not worried at all. I'm 100% confident that I'm gonna race this season. I'm 100% confident that I'm gonna do well this year, and that's a lot different than how I felt 2 years ago. Um, as for like just the experience of being hurt, I feel like there is a lot of kind of loneliness and solitude in the sense of like you aren't on a team, so you're not really in it with someone else. But I do have the Life University team that I train at their track. My mom is one of their coaches. Um, I'm out there at the same time as them, and so sometimes I'll go to their meets or be around them. So like they're kind of like my team in a sense. Um, and I feel a lot of kind of camaraderie with them. So that's kind of I don't feel lonely per se. I feel as though that definitely excites me, like seeing them what they do. Like it really motivates me because they're a hardworking group and they're I think one of the better NAIA teams really out there. So yeah, it's cool to see, be a part of.
That is, yeah, and it's nice that you to hear that you do have that camaraderie still. But just watching, indoor meets are happening right now. I'd say the season's in full swing. Been some crazy results across the board. As a guy who ran pretty fast at a young age yourself, what do you think of this Sam Ruth kid running 3:48 as a 16-year-old?
Yeah, I was really surprised to see that. I know the kid's really talented and really fast, but 3:48 is kind of next level. But I think it just kind of goes to show where we're at in track. I mean, we're at a point where like really it seems like no one's limited. Everyone's kind of maxing out in terms of what they're doing on the track, off the track. Like we got bicarb, we got Nomeo, we got all this recovery stuff, all this new science coming out about how to maximize your performances. And I think everyone's just taking advantage of it. And I think, you know, Sam Ruth, right now we're looking at him as this crazy phenom, but I think in the next few years, we're going to just see more and more of that. I mean, we have Cooper, we have Quincy, like there's a lot of guys out there who just keep coming up and showing us that age isn't really a it's really just a number basically. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean anything now. So it's crazy, yeah.
We recently just had the Millrose Games this year, and last year I particularly remember your race in the 600 meters at Millrose. I remember watching on the broadcast, and before the race, it was like they were focused on Quincy Wilson, which of course, like, young guys. I think he was 16 at the time or so. Um, Big story there. Like, definitely have to talk about him. And then they were also talking about Brandon Miller, who was in the race. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, they haven't mentioned Will Sumner. Sure enough, you go out there, you win 600-meter at Millrose Games. How big was that race for you, especially coming off of a period of being out?
Yeah, that was a huge one for me. Um, it really, like, that kind of solidified to myself, like, that I could, do this at a high level again. Just because obviously missing a whole year, you don't really know you know, what you're gonna have coming back. And so, yeah, I think that was like, okay, let's keep going. Um, so yeah, it was good in that sense. But yeah, going into it though, I didn't even get the invite to go. Like, I had to ask to be in there because I think, like you said, I'd been hurt. Like, no one really expected anything of me. So I ran like 2 400s leading up to that, and then um that was enough for me to be like, hey, actually, I think I ran 3 400s. That was enough for me to be like, hey, I think I'm good. Like, I'm ready to run a 6. And I'd done some things in practice. So I'm like, yeah, like I can do it. And so I was confident that I could go do it. And I was aware, like, I'd see posts about the meet. I shouldn't be looking at social media, obviously, but I saw like posts, and none of them mentioned me in any of the posts. So I going back and like watching the replay, I wasn't surprised they didn't mention me on the stream. Because yeah, to me it made sense that I wouldn't really get mentioned. Although I thought they'd mention more so just because I had the high school record that Quincy was going for. I thought they might bring that up. But anyway, yeah, I was like, I just wanted to go out there and prove to myself that I could run, and that's what I did. So yeah, it was great for me.
You sure did. I mean, I always kind of like rooting for the underdogs. Like, there's nothing wrong with being the favorite and executing on that, but there is something kind of exciting about, nobody talking about you and then you going out there and doing it. I don't know what races you have on the calendar, but are you like able to set even more ambitious goals because of that history?
Yeah, I just feel like that's kind of who I am. I like to just set really ambitious goals that I usually don't end up getting because like I set them a lot higher than maybe are realistic. Um, so yeah, like that's kind of the same plan this year is just swing for the fences and see what I can do. Because yeah, like I don't view this as a limitation. Like, I've never really trained a lot ever, so me being limited in that sense doesn't really like affect my mentality going forward or my confidence. Um, and I feel like because I'm working so hard to like, get my mechanics right and, do a few things, like I'm going to start trying to use like a lever thing for the treadmill to keep me offloaded a bit. Like things like that will hopefully be able to get me more volume than I've had in the past. So I think I'll be ready to go is basically what I'm saying. I'm not really worried um that this is gonna affect me in that way.
Yeah. I've used I think like the light speed treadmill was something like that took some weight off. And then we also got then the boost. Maybe I'm getting the names wrong, but those
Yeah,
work.
no
Those,
boost. That's yeah.
okay. The boost was really nice. Sweet. Yeah. Maybe we'll let you do a little bit more volume too. I know it did for me back in the day, so that's
Yeah.
cool.
No, it's those things are huge. I wish I
Yeah.
I wish I had one like sooner because yeah, we ordered it. Should be here soon.
Oh, that's cool. Exciting. Exciting. So we talked about Millrose. Another kind of classic historic meet on the outdoor scene is Penn Relays. Later that same year, you won. I think it was another 600-meter at Penn Relays. I think people were saying at the time that the stagger was like had you guys run longer than the actual 600 race distance. Is that something that you heard about or cared about at all? And do you think it was
Yeah, so as soon as we got on the track, we knew it was wrong because so first of all, they wanted us to do a two-turn stagger, which made no sense because it was a 600. That's never a thing. And then secondly, they lined us up like I think 19 meters further back from where we were supposed to be because they line us up, I think, at the 400-meter start. Um, so I knew that something was wrong. I didn't know how wrong it was. I just knew it was wrong. And the other guys were like kind of in the same boat of like what's happening. Like have to be like if I remember correctly, a lot of people were just like not even really wanting to run the race. And I was kind of in that boat too. I was like, I don't know. I'm just here. I'm just here for the fun. Um and so yeah, like basically halfway through the race, I'm like, yeah, this is like really, really weird. And I completely had to change my strategy just because I didn't know what was going on. So I just kind of like switched to like a sit and kick. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna do a race and not like try to run a fast time. And as soon as we finished, um, like after I went under the infield, they all like the coaches from some of the guys, like I think um Coach Brumlick from Under Armour like came up to me and said like that the race was long. Like a few other people said the race was long. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, yeah. And basically everyone's trying to like figure out how long it was. We ended up figuring out it was like 19 meters too long, and they did a conversion on World Athletics and all this silly stuff. But yeah, it was kind of a disaster, but it was I had a good time. Like I said, as soon as I realized how messed up it was, I just was like, you know what? Let's just enjoy this race. I'm at Penn Relays. I'm gonna live in the moment and just have fun, and that's what I did.
Well, I'm happy to finally get the official story from a guy who was in it because I remember it being very strange. I ran at Penn Relays in high school, and that track is just like naturally kind of weird. I remember like there was a
Yeah,
rail in like lane 3 or something. I almost tripped over. It was like it's just a weird shape. Like nothing against Franklin Field. It's historic and classic, but
yeah,
they do have some like funky things there. And I
yeah.
just
It's cool, but
yeah, it's
so
cool.
weird, so weird.
I can't believe that they would mess up the distance of a race, especially one that is like the top elite field of pros. Like that's
Yeah.
nuts to me, but I guess it made
Well,
for a fun story
it
now. And you got the
won't
win.
happen again, though. It won't happen again.
Yeah. One of my coaches always used to say, like, if the clock didn't work on the day of the race and like you didn't even get the time and the distance was off, like it doesn't matter. If you win, like you know you won. So that's
Yeah,
kind of
exactly. That's a
fun.
good coach right there.
Yeah, Coach Stafelsky, high school, Westfield. That's shout out. We've been talking 600s, and 600 is a pretty cool event. Every time I get to see it indoors, I'm like, I wish they did this more often. But as we know, like 800 is kind of the more marquee event in the sport. Do you feel like the 800 is what you're going to be targeting, come 2028 and like that's your main event?
Yeah, I've always viewed the 8 as my long-term event, and I've just basically like tried to do everything I can to kind of develop what I need to be able to run the 8, which we've always looked, and by we I mean like me, my parents, and all my coaches over the years is like the 4 is what's going to allow my 8 to really open up. And I didn't get the chance to really work on the 4 in college, but last year was like, a good year for me to kind of just see what I could do in the 4 cuz things weren't clicking in the 8. And and yeah, I think that kind of set me up well going forward, and I do want to focus more on the 8. And I think as I kind of alluded to before, like I just have a really hard time handling the volume. Like w- I might realistically only ever be able to do like 20 miles a week at most, like something like that. And if that's the case, we just got to figure out how to maximize that. And there are people who've done that. So um, yeah, like I'm really excited to see going forward what we can do. And I want to get the 4 down too, because if I can, go under 45, because I was so close last year, I think that's one of the big things that'll help my 8 as well. Because not many 800 runners can run 44 in the open 4. So yeah, I mean, just I just really looking forward to the 8 in the future, just seeing what I can do.
I'm glad you brought up the 4 too, because you are kind of from that sprint side of the 800. And I remember the U20 World Championships. You were in the mixed 4x4 and the 4x4, won them both. I think for the 4x4, USA had you as the anchor. How cool was that to, have the opportunity to bring home a gold? Obviously, there's a lot of faith put into you as a relays anchor.
Yeah, that was really cool. Probably one of my most memorable track moments. I remember like before I got the baton, like as I'm walking up to the line, my legs were literally shaking because I was so nervous. Um, but yeah, the stadium was packed that day. It was a really cool atmosphere, like so fun, and just representing your country. Like you just got a lot of pride. I feel like in that moment, like we were all just like so happy to be there. I think it was everyone's first time, wearing the USA kit. So, um, yeah, like, that was super fun, and I was surprised they entrusted me as the anchor, honestly, because they were all like college dudes. Um, and at least I think, yeah, they were all college dudes, and they wanted me on the anchor. Surprisingly, like the team told me, like, yeah, like let's have you on the anchor. So, um, it was a special moment for sure.
Do you think you're like best off as kind of a non-lead off leg? I think I've heard that you're not the biggest fan of block starts. So do you feel like you're kind of better off not doing the lead off?
Yeah, I think historically I'm not a great starter. Although last year I definitely improved by the end of the year. I still don't think I'm ever really gonna be the guy to lead off. I think because I'm an 800 guy too, I have experience running in a shared lane. Um, I I feel like 800 guys have better finishes in the 4x4 if they need to outkick someone. Like Texas Relays was a good example for me. Um, I I think yeah, like I'm probably better off like third or fourth leg just because of that.
Being the anchor, it's like the most fun, but it's also the most high pressure, especially when, I think that race, like you got the baton with a pretty good lead and it's like, it's your race to win, but it's also like your race to lose, I guess you could say. But you've
Yeah.
got some of the like presumably the fastest runners on every other country's team is chasing after you, and like they have the benefit of seeing you, and you don't see anything behind you. What's it like running away from like a crowd of really fast guys you don't even see?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like a lot of times they're going so fast that you just almost gotta let them catch you and just trust that you're gonna gap them again at the end. Cause like they seriously go so fast. Like I'm talking like they'll be going out in 20 flat for a flying 200. Um so yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, like I don't I don't know if I can handle 4x4 at the top level at this point. I mean, I really have no idea. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to be in.
How does that work at like, let's just say the Olympics? Like, do I feel like I should know this, but Team USA, do they have like a planned 4x4 going in, or is it kind of like they pull from the sprinters and mid distance guys who already made it? I feel like usually I don't find out who the 4x4 squad is until like the day before or something like that.
So with USATF stuff, there's a lot of politics that go into that. Unfortunately, like they kind of do know who they want on the team beforehand, and it's not always who a lot of people think should be on the team. I mean, um, I think like my experience with with the USA team in Colombia and on the Costa Rica team as well in 23, like there wasn't really a lot of that. It was just, it was kind of chill. Like they picked who needed to be on there. But I've heard that like at the Olympics and at World Championships, like there's a lot more politics. So they usually try to, if you have like a 400-meter open champion, they'll try to get them on there like for sure. And um people like Rye Benjamin, he's always on that relay just because I mean he's gonna be good. And like someone like Vernon, who's been there in a lot of situations, is always gonna be on the team just because again he's reliable and consistent. So yeah, it's not always like who's actually on the individual team necessarily. It's a lot of times it's just people they know are good and have been in that situation, which that's not a bad strategy when you have like 30 different people who can run on the relay. So yeah, I think like that's kind of how it works for the most part is like you try to pick who is going to do well. And then if you have a new guy coming up who's really good. And like for instance, Quincy, he ran at Paris. I think more so just to give him the experience because they view him as like a long term talent that they wanted to get that experience for. Because I know he was dealing with a little bit of an issue, like a health issue there, which is why he ran slow. But I think they kind of were like, whatever, we're going to put him on. Then again, I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm just kind of speculating.
I couldn't help but think that like that was part of it, and like also, the storyline of him being such a young kid at the
Yeah,
Olympics, like that was cool.
exactly. Yeah.
They probably could still win, kind of regardless of if he had a great PR or anything like that, you know. So it's
Right. Yeah.
cool.
Exactly. There's a lot of politics. They're trying to do what brings attention, what they know is going to work, and then yeah, just you know, they like to put their stars on the team, which it makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, and US is a team that can afford to do that. I feel like there's some other countries that it's like, look, we need to put whatever's going to give us the absolute fastest. But with Team USA, it's like we've got a lot of guys. We don't even maybe necessarily know who's going to be the fastest
Right.
spotted for.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Pretty much anybody who takes this sport seriously at some point is going to encounter an injury. I hate to say it, but I feel like you're a pretty good guy to give advice on navigating that. And hopefully that is something that has not only taught you, but you're able to kind of like pay it forward and share your experience. I wanted to give you the opportunity to do that here for anybody listening who maybe is injured right now or just needs to be prepared for what that can look like in this sport.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, injury sucks as an athlete because you can't do what you love doing, what you want to do, and so I think the biggest thing when you're dealing with is one, you gotta stay focused because it can be really easy to kind of like let yourself get down in the dumps and just kind of feel sorry for yourself. But I think like the best thing you can do is just try to get a little better every day. And, whether that means doing your rehab, you know, going to PT, going to a doctor, like whatever it is, eating right, like making sure you're getting the right nutrition, whatever it might be, whatever's going to make you a little better every day is kind of just where you got to start because I feel like it can be you kind of like you lose sight of the process because you get so focused on what you're missing out on. But if you just focus on the process of getting better each day, like one, it goes by a lot faster, and two, I feel like mentally it's a lot easier because you view it more so as like a journey versus like kind of like a burden, like something that's placed on you that you don't have any control over. And yeah, I think another big thing is just learning why you got hurt because I feel like injury is a great time to learn and reflect because injuries happen for a reason. As you said, like it might be volume related, it might be a fueling problem. You might not be eating enough. Uh, you might not be getting the right minerals or nutrients that you need. It could be like more biomechanical, like it is in my case. Whatever it might be, I think learning why you're getting hurt and figuring out what you can do to prevent that in the future and how you can use that to make you better is going to be huge going forward. And then the last thing is just use it as motivation because the more you miss out on the sport, the more you want to be in it. And I think you'll build up a lot of that motivation and desire if you just keep working hard and yeah, like once you get back out there on the track or whatever, you're gonna be ready to go and kill it.
Well said. I mean, phenomenal advice from a guy who actually has lived that, navigated that, and made it happen. I'm wearing my Rocky shirt. If you're watching on
Nice,
YouTube,
nice.
or, yeah, seeing the visual of this podcast, Rocky, I feel like is a good example of that. It's not about how hard you hit; it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And I think that in the track world is well applied to injuries.
Absolutely.
A great note to wrap up the main section of this podcast on. We like to end things fast, just like we end races. We end with 10 rapid fire questions, and we are going to see how fast is Will Sumner's podcast kick. You
Oh
ready?
gosh, we'll see how we do.
All right, I got to get my clock here. Very official. And You have a lot to live up to here as one of the fastest guys in the world. So
I'm not expecting myself to do well here. Just saying.
clock starts after I ask the first question. Here we go. Favorite all-time 800-meter runner to watch?
David Rudisha.
Is the 800-meter the hardest event in track?
Yes.
Proudest high school running accomplishment?
115 in the 600.
Proudest accomplishment in college?
144 at NCAAs.
Proudest pro running accomplishment?
Millrose 600.
Favorite Adidas running shoe?
Ooh, the Evo SL.
If you could only run the 400 or 800, which?
400.
Favorite place you've traveled to because of track?
Switzerland.
One word to describe your racing style?
Aggressive.
What city is Running City, USA?
Atlanta.
Boom. 44 seconds. That's pretty good.
That's
pretty
a 44. That's a number I like.
Yeah.
It's a number I like.
I was like, that's actually perfect. I think we're going to see another 44 seconds in your future on the clock.
What was the decimal?
44.3.
All right, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, it's a fast time.
I'm surprised. I'm not good at that kind of stuff normally, so
Humble. I mean, you locked in and then you made it happen. I knew the first one was a softball with Rudisha. I knew you were going to go the GOAT. So
yeah. I mean, front running king. So
yeah, that's awesome. I had to throw in Running City, USA there with Atlanta. But you've got Tracktown in Eugene, Oregon, but Atlanta, I've recently learned.
Running City, USA.
Running City, USA. So thanks so much for coming on the show, Will. Very excited to see what you do this year and beyond. Fast 800s, fast 400s, and most importantly, staying healthy. So good luck with everything you have in the near future and long term. Appreciate you coming on.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.